And then I told my parents कि hey, I have a job offer, but I also have an admit from IIMA and I'm taking this. And they were like perplexed कि कैसे, मतलब तुम्हारे पास एक सरकारी नौकरी है, तुम वो नहीं ले रही हो, तुम पढ़ने जा रही हो. I was not allowed to travel alone. My younger brother, he is accompanying me so that I can be safe. Primarily, everything was derived from the fact of realizing what I'm losing, and that was freedom. Someone else will take decisions for me. It was just not acceptable. Everyone who I was friends with till 5th standard who were, studying with me is married with 2-3 kids. I'm probably the only one who kind of broke that chain. Mm-hmm. So when you read amazing writers, they make you realize that you can do things and like things are possible and they have done things. कुछ भी हो मतलब नौकरी तो मिल ही जाएगी because you're in IIMA, right? जो लोन होता है हमारा एजुकेशन और अगर मुझे पेरेंट्स को इन्वॉल्व करना पड़ा तो I'm not gonna do that. I'm gonna just let go of my admit. It's just like now I think it's so foolish. And then it hit him कि okay, she has done something क्योंकि इसको 30 लाख का लोन 1 मिनट में मिल गया and people have not even talked to me. Seniors who I met there were like really good in terms of guiding you, in terms of telling you how your life could be. I have never had guidance in my life. Like so far, I have been just making my own way. And that is the first time I started thinking of money as an investment option that, I can buy something so that it will pay me back later, right? In my first interview experience of my summer intern, I got the internship and I just wanted an internship. I did not have a preference on what. I was earning like 7K a month to a person who is like, how much we earn. Could not comprehend. I was like, oh my God, I'm the richest person. So I think realizing that कि don't stop कि मुझे 2 लाख में मेरा काम हो रहा था मैं उतना ही कमाऊंगी. Like go for your full potential. Don't tap that. Sorting money, like really taking money out of your life situation really helps.
Hello everyone. I know it's been a very long gap, but it takes time to find unique guests, right? And today I have with me someone whose story is very, very unique. Not just her childhood story or her journey, but also the way she views life, the way she views money, what is her relationship with societal rules, and the way we look at career, travel, making our own decisions. We'll cover all of this. So help me welcome Nicky. Hi, Nicky.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, and let's get started. But for context, Nicky is someone who graduated from IIM Ahmedabad in the year 2019. She's had a career in e-commerce, in quick commerce, and we'll also cover that. But Nicky, let's start from the beginning. Let's start with your childhood. And I want you to give the viewers some context on how you imagined your life would be when you were, let's say, 7 or 8 years old. What did your life look like and what you thought your life would be?
Okay. First of all, thank you so much for having me here. I grew up in a very, very backward reserve society where women are considered as burden. I was the eldest child. I have a younger sibling, a younger sister, and a brother, youngest brother. So overall, everyone, in family and around had thought, okay, 10th tak padegi, 12th tak padegi, and then we'll get her married, right? That's how the usual journey has been. But in 5th standard, if you have heard of JNV,
yes,
Navodaya schools. So I sat for that entrance exam and I got through. And it used to be such a big deal that at that time I became a mini celebrity in my town because that used to be a big deal that you cleared that exam and you're going to that school. And for everyone's context, Navodaya is basically a central government funded school where the kids' education is fully funded from 6th to 12th standard and they get everything. Everything, by everything I mean, you'll get your socks, you'll get your pens, copies, books, you'll get access to really good education, really good teachers, library, sports, everything. And your parents' thought process of that you have to invest so much on this kid's education will be entirely taken care of. So I think that really immensely helped me because being as like the eldest kid in the family, my parents will no longer have to
worry about expenses,
paying for my education or expenses. That is one. And second, it gave me a lot of exposure because the kind of teachers I had, even though it was still a very, very backward and very
this
restrictive
was JNV
setup.
In which city?
This was JNV. There's a town called Shahjahanpur. So every district in India kind of has a JNV. So it was there. And the kind of teachers I've had, even though it was still a very restrictive society, we were not allowed to keep our hair open. We were not allowed to wear skirts. In general India, I'm talking about. So that was the case. But it kind of taught me how to dream, how to kind of have an opinion of my own, gave me access to books. So I used to be one of those people who used to be like, after books, getting just a book issued and read it. And I remember a time when I wanted to become a librarian, so that I just never have to ask my librarian ki mujhe ye book chahiye, and I just can read, whatever I want. So that was the case. So I think that was one major breakthrough which kind of set me apart from rest of my friends of that time. And for context, everyone who I was friends with till fifth standard, who were studying with me, is married with 2 3 kids. I'm probably the only one who kind of broke that chain, and my friends are proud of me for sure. So that was the first part. But when I went to JNV, my parents thought कि 12th तक ही पढ़ेगी, क्योंकि 12th तक होता है, 12th तक पढ़ेगी and उसके बाद we'll get her married, right? But of course, I mean, that's not what I wanted. I wanted to become a doctor, and at that time we did not have a lot of exposure. We did not have internet as much as we have now. So everyone wanted to be either an engineer or a doctor. I wanted to be a doctor, and I've like always wanted to be a doctor. So जब मैं 9th में थी, तब मैं 11th और 12th क्लास के स्टूडेंट्स की बुक्स पढ़ती थी, बायोलॉजी, एंड 9th में अगर आप कोई डायग्राम बना रहे हो तो मैं 12th की बुक वाला डायग्राम बनाती थी. I used to be so passionate about it. But the usual set path was that to become a doctor, you will go to say Kota and go
Study for NEET.
go for go to a coaching
institutes.
LN or whatever, right? And then uske baad you'll sit for the entrance exam. You'll have to prepare for it. That was a set path. At that time, I mean, today I could think ki, probably that was not a set path, and I could prepare on my own also. But at that time, it just was not even a possibility or even an option. So clearly, I wanted my parents to send me to Kota. And now there are two ways of looking at it. One is my parents were not very, very financially well off. But at the same time, I also felt if I were a boy, they would have sent me, right?
They would have
figured it out, right? And that's what matters the most to me. That at that time, I felt that, I'm still being treated like a burden, even after making through one of the coveted schools where no one else has gone through, and all of that. So that was my first realization, when I realized that I'm totally dependent on my parents for taking my own decisions, right? And so that happened. I kind of became very strange with my parents, where I was not speaking to them much, and because they were just not sending me, and I kind of, like, in aggression, I decided, okay, I don't want to study. And then I wasted entire year after my 12th standard to, okay, I don't want to
Just
study.
out of
So I was
anger.
just not doing anything. And I used to have like strong anger issues at that time because of that. How am I
For
so
the entire year.
Yeah, for the entire, that how am I so dependent on, parents, and there's no other way for a girl to figure out her way, right? So, and of course, when you're young, it all is dependent on who is able to convince you the best, right? So if you're in 11th standard, 12th standard, and somebody is convincing you, hey, you can do all of these steps and you can have this life, why don't you do this? And if you're very well convinced, if that person has that kind of convincing power, you'll do that. You will see that that is possible. So a friend of mine, or not actually friend, मेरे बुआ के बेटे एक भैया थे, who was मतलब थोड़े पढ़े लिखे थे उस टाइम पे, because there were not a lot of people जो अच्छे से educated थे. So he came and he said, the best way is to get into a bank, get into a bank where it starts paying you immediately. And at that time, मतलब you just have to be 18 years old to be, part of a bank and work there.
You mean as a cashier or
any job,
role,
yeah,
any role in a
but
bank.
like proper on roll basically. So I wrote this exam, which used to be IBPS exam. So I wrote that, and if you clear that, you are eligible to apply for 17 banks, right? But I was 17 years, 6 months old. So technically I fell short of 18 years wala bracket, and that's why I could not apply there. And that is the biggest, what is it called?
Life-changing moment?
In a way, because otherwise I would have been a cashier or a bank officer
Accountant.
somewhere. Exactly. I may have been, making some money, but would not have reached where I am. And I'm really proud of that. So that happened. And after that, my parents also realized that, she did all of this by herself, like studying on her own. And it kind of like is, showing that she can do things by her own. I mean, by that time, if I can give you some context, I was not allowed to travel alone. My younger brother, who is like 4 years younger than me, I was like 17. My brother, who is 4 years younger than me, he is accompanying me so that I can be safe. Like, how tragic it can be that a guy who is 13-year-old is considered that he can take care of his 17-year-old sister, who is like older and has seen more experience and in general more, aware about things, and 13-year-old. But he would be considered a safer option than me going alone. So it used to be such a case where, okay, I'm going somewhere, he will take me there, right? I cannot go on my own. So from there, then I decided that, I have to just sort this part. So what I started doing at that time was, I, I stayed at my home and I prepared for whatever 12th, 11th की जो भी books थी, उनसे I started preparing and I prepared for PMT, pre-medical test होता था. And then there was similar exam called pre-agriculture test. So I wrote both and I could not clear PMT. It used to be like immensely, competitive exam. So in case of PAT, I got a really good rank, I think 6th or 7th in Madhya Pradesh, and that gave me a free seat in one of the colleges of agriculture. By free seat means I will get some scholarship like 3,400, 3,500 per semester, and my fee will not be there, right? So for me, that was my solution to financial freedom in a way at that moment, because I will then not be dependent on my parents. So of course, I did not have the PMT option, so I took this and I enrolled myself for the pre-agriculture test, and then I got into the BSc agriculture part, right? So 4 years of degree, where then I started teaching kids tuitions. Taking tuitions where I am teaching kids of say up to 10th standard all of their subjects, and then earning some money out of it. So I started with say 3,500 a month, or to then 4,000, 4,500, like that. So there used to be there's a mediator arrangement where you tie up with a person who then has contacts with multiple people who is supplying tutors to those kids, and he's handling the payment. So he would take 30% of that. So and then I'll get the rest of the part, right? So that was the kind of arrangement. But then he would make sure that you get the tuitions, right? So he would send me to like really nice, wealthy kids, and I would teach them. I'll go to their house, I'll teach them, and I'll come back, and by the end of the month, I'll get some money. So that's how I started, and I started seeing it as my way of freedom, in a way where I don't have to ask my parents for any money, right? So that's how I started. Then with time, I realized that everything was expensive at that moment for somebody who's not earning, right? So my college and my tuition used to be far. So I used to attend my college. I used to miss the last class because
so that you can be on
tuition
time.
पहुंचना होता था. So then I used to walk from that place to the tuition's place. Not exactly the tuition's place, but जहाँ से cab मिलती है. तो I used to walk like 2 kilometers one way. Then लेके जा रही हूँ. हाँ, ऐसे. That's how I started. Then I started taking tuitions in the morning also. So I used to go to take class at 6:30. I used to wake up at 6, walk again. तो ऐसे करके बहुत walk होता था. It's like I used to walk 7-8 kilometers every day, and I was like 38 kgs at that moment, and I lost so much weight. I became very thin, very in a way malnourished, all of that. So then I realized, why don't I take an Activa or buy something of my own so that I can start teaching more kids. That will enhance my earning. It will be an investment. And that is the first time I started thinking of money as an investment option, that I can buy something so that it will pay me back later, right? So I bought something of my own, and that was like one major breakthrough in terms of money, because I bought that from my own saved money of 45k लगे थे उस time पे. तो and then my parents realized कि she's studying, she's not taking any money for studying, as well as she's taking care of her entire finances, and now she has bought her own Activa. So then they realized, bhai, matlab sach mein mehnat kar rahi hai, right? Then I bought my own laptop, and now these things feel such, in a very trivial way, like such small things. But at that time, it was a huge deal.
And all of these were added to your self-confidence.
Exactly, yeah. And so with time, they also realized ki, like she's figuring her way out. And I stopped taking money from the moment I was started, I had started teaching kids. So basically, I was fully funding my own education, taking care of my own finances. And it was not like much, because it's a small city. You live in a government-funded hostel. You just have to pay for your like some expenses and food. So basically, food ke 1200 kuch lagte the, and then some expenses. So even if I'm earning 3,500, I would still save 1,500, right? So from that, and then I was making say 7 to 8k types in a month, right? So that happened. Then how I got into CAT was an interesting story. So basically, I was in the college I was part of. Everyone was from villages, basically, right? So not all of the people had a very good exposure on how to talk to people, what to perceive when somebody is talking to you. So I was just complaining to one of my seniors, a senior of mine from school, that मेरे कॉलेज में ऐसे लोग हैं, ऐसे लड़के हैं कि मैं अगर उनसे बात कर रही हूँ तो उनको लगता है कि मैं उनमें इंटरेस्टेड हूँ. तो ही जस्ट कैजुअली सजेस्टेड कि तू MBA करने चली जा, राइट. एंड एट दैट टाइम मैंने कैट का नाम भी नहीं सुना था, एंड आई डिड नॉट नो. आई थॉट आई विल डू BSc, देन आई विल डू MSc, एंड देन आई विल अप्लाई फॉर अ गवर्नमेंट जॉब एंड आई विल डू दैट, राइट. But it just sparked something, and then I started reading up about it, and this was like third year of college. So then I realized ki, okay, there's something where I can make a lot more money than I will ever make from this traditional route. So I started reading up about it. But in fourth year of my college, there is a 6-month internship which happens in a village. So we were in Jhabua, which is like a tribal area, and now it's way more developed, but back then it was like very very traditional. Free press करके English newspaper आता है, तो जब तुम CAT की तैयारी करते हो तो you read newspaper so that you can learn words and get updated to news and what's happening in the market. So free press जो है, it's not one of the best newspapers, क्योंकि अब तुम HT वगैरह ऐसे पढ़ते हो, वो 2 दिन लेट आता था वहाँ पे. मतलब that was the case कि वो भी तुमको 2 दिन बाद मिल रहा है. तो इट वॉज अ वेरी बैड सिचुएशन इन दैट वे कि तुम अप टू डेट रह नहीं सकते. एंड दैट internship was of 6 months, so you're in a backward area where you don't have access to so many resources as you have today, and you're preparing on your own, and you have never done this before. So
and you prepared completely on your own.
At that time I prepared completely on my own. So that happened, and of course I did not do really well on my GAT. So uske baad then I decided to take a year gap. At that time, all of my professors suggested me, at the same time enroll for MSc also. So if you don't make it to CAT, at least you'll have this, backup. Right? But then in my head, I had this trauma in a way कि जब मुझे 12th के बाद gap लेना था to prepare for, becoming a doctor, तब मुझे वो नहीं मिला. तो I just did not want to live with that regret. So I wanted to give myself that chance so that वो हट जाए दिमाग से, right? So I had some savings, of course, and like being like an amazing saver all my life. So the conditioning and the upbringing was such that I had never like longed for things, and never compared with people in general. Like I've always felt that if I don't want something, probably I'm better in a way, and I don't know, it might not be the best way of thinking, but it just worked well in my favor. So, and that's why I have always been an amazing saver. Like I always will save a lot of money. I will never buy things.
We'll come to that part where you tell the audience how you save 90% of your salary.
Yeah. So I had some savings. So then I enrolled to a coaching institute where I started going like regularly. At the same time, I was also taking care of my brother who was studying at that time. He was living with me. I was taking care of his expenses.
And this was in which city? Which
Indore, yes. And I was also going to the coaching classes. तो मैं दिन भर coaching ट्यूशंस पढ़ाती थी, शाम को coaching classes करती थी 1.5 घंटे की 2 घंटे की career launcher से. And then the same routine. I used
for a year.
ऐसे for a year, and then I wrote CAT. And it was a very good moment for me because I prepared and then all of that. And then when I got an admit from IIM Ahmedabad, my parents are not very educated, so they don't know what it is.
IIM Ahmedabad means.
Exactly. So at that time, they did not realize what it is, and a lot of people did not. It's like, it's just a college, right? You got a college to study further, right? What's
and you have to pay.
So it was a huge deal. So at the same time, while I wrote CAT, I also wrote a lot of government exams, so SSC and all of that. And I told them ki, hey, I have an offer, a government job offer.
Okay, you also converted an offer.
I also converted those. So like very regular, like SI1, Sub Inspector 1, and SSC and all of those. And then I told my parents ki, hey, I have a job offer, but I also have an admit from IIMA and I'm taking this. And they were like perplexed ki, कैसे, मतलब तुम्हारे पास एक सरकारी नौकरी है, तुम वो नहीं ले रही हो, तुम पढ़ने जा रही हो
जिसमें तुम्हें
35 lakhs पे करना है. So yeah, that was a big deal. So all of that happened, but how my parents के दिमाग में कब चेंज हुआ, जब मैं फाइनल IIMA पहुंची. एंड इन माई हेड देयर वाज दिस ह्यूज ब्लॉकर कि अगर मुझे जो लोन होता है हमारा एजुकेशन लोन, अगर मुझे पेरेंट्स को इन्वॉल्व करना पड़ा तो आई एम नॉट गोना डू दैट. आई एम गोना जस्ट लेट गो ऑफ माई एडमिट, व्हिच इज लाइक नाउ आई थिंक इट्स सो फुलिश, बट एनीवे एट दैट टाइम आई हैड दिस aggression. So when I went there, my dad was there you get a room, right? So my dad was there, and the bank guy came and he knocked at the door. He called me out. I went out. I just signed, and that's all.
That is how you got the 30 lakh rupees loan.
Yeah. So I got the 30 lakh loan sanction, and my dad was surprised. And then it hit him कि okay she has done something, क्योंकि इसको 30 लाख का लोन 1 मिनट में मिल गया and people have not even talked to me. मतलब वो बैंक वाले ने उससे बात भी नहीं किया, right? Are you okay?
I'm just very emotional.
So yeah, so that's when it hit him, and then he realized कि अच्छा कुछ बड़ा किया है इसने, right?
Oh my God, Nikki, I can't tell you what I am feeling right now. Not just empowered, but I am feeling so proud of you. So proud of all your decisions, so proud of all the effort that you put in to make whatever you made happen. But then I have so many questions, and I'll maybe ask a few of
Sure.
them. How and when did you get to know of JNV? How did you prepare for that? And like you said, you became a mini celebrity then itself when you cleared JNV. So how did that happen? Because that is the first step in this entire story.
Yeah. So I mean, at that moment, I don't exactly know how I got to know, but in schools, so all the schools used to take pride in the students who get selected for that exam. So a teacher must have come to the class and have asked, you know, would you like to fill the form? And then it's not like they will ask the student or all. Some teacher must have come and asked the class teacher that, you know, we want some of your class, and not everyone participated. Some of the students participated, so that to fill a form, and that's all. Then you have to go and write an exam. I did not. I mean, usually now people do realize the importance and all of that. The way it kind of takes away a huge, you know, burden off the parents' chest. So people do
Prepare for years,
their kids prepare for that. But at that time, we did not prepare for it. There used to be a book basically, which kind of mock test kind of setup, where what kind of questions would come. It's very basic. I mean, basic right now, but at that time, so very basic understanding of whatever you have studied. So till 5th, whatever you have studied, logical reasoning, math questions, all of those. So in a way, it's like a mini CAT for that kind of that time of
that
Nicky.
level.
So yeah, that's how I got to know. And I mean, it's like there were people who were already studying there, so it's not like I was the first person. There were people who were studying, and there were people who then came back, like summer mein jab tum aate ho vacation mein, then they tell ki how it is and all of that. So people knew about it. But then number of people who get selected, so in one JNV only 80 students get selected from a district. So that's because the number of people is so low, and that's why you kind of break through, and then people realize that, oh my God, so many people wrote that exam, but only 80 got selected, and she's one of those 80 people. So I think that's how. So from my village, I think one other person was there, but she, I think, did not go ultimately because she wanted to stay with the parents. Okay. And I was very happy to go there because I was so happy that I'll get my own bed, my own stuff, all of that.
Books, sports,
my own
facilities.
Books. Yeah. I mean, at that time when I was going, I did not know that you'll get books, sports and all that. I was just very happy कि मुझे अपना खुद का एक बेड मिलेगा, अपनी खुद की चीजें मिलेगी. Like you'll have your own space, because when you brown household, right, you don't have a sense of privacy. So I mean, that was never there. I have always been
shared the bed,
shared stuff, all
with your family.
Yeah. So in that case, I was just very happy कि okay, I'll have my own corner, my own bed. I'll do things on my own way. No one will tell me what to do, which was actually the opposite, because we were being told all the time कि अब सोना है, अब उठना है. But I was very happy about it. It has, I mean, that is, I think, the best thing ever happened to me. Not even IIMA. That is the best thing ever happened to me. If that would have not happened, I would definitely be a very different person. Yeah.
Leading a very different life.
So that's there.
So another question that like really struck me is you said that in your household, women were accompanied by men, no matter what their age.
Yes.
When you were 17, you were accompanied by your 13-year-old brother. So from there to taking up the courage of fighting back or getting angry against your parents, taking the decision कि नहीं, मुझे अगर आपने नहीं भेजा कोटा तो this is my retaliation. How did you find the courage to retaliate? Because even retaliating or showing your anger is tough when you are brought up in a household where you cannot express yourself. From there to finding out tuitions, to going there alone, investing or financing your own Activa. वो courage कहाँ से आया?
So I think primarily everything was derived from the fact of realizing what I'm losing, and that was freedom, right? And it was too dear to me, realizing that if I don't get this sorted, someone else will take decisions for me, right? And then I've seen my own friends getting married when they were like, say, 21, 22. even if they didn't want to get married, because they did not have anything better to counter, right? So for example, if a friend is getting married, or her father wants her to get married, she has to say something that, no, I want to do this, right? Or I'm doing this, and that's why. If she's not doing anything, and she's not doing anything because of certain reasons, maybe she did not get enough resources, enough exposure, enough opportunities, all of that, where none of it is her fault, right? But still she's paying
This
the
is her
price.
reality.
Yeah, but still she's paying the price by giving up the freedom. So that was just not acceptable, and I kind of realized that. And I think a very strong point of view came from books. So when I was in Navodaya, from 6th to 12th, I got access to so many amazing writers. There's Mahadevi Verma, there's Premchand, there's lot of writers who have rebelled in their life. And I have always seen myself as the main character, that, I'm never going to be the person who kind of becomes victim. And that is the realization that, I just cannot be this person who ends up doing things depending on what is being told to them. I think I think kind of the
That
major
fueled everything
exactly
else.
that fueled everything. And when, I mean, at the same time, I also, when you said that going to teach kids alone, right, all of this, there was always this initial apprehension, right? But then realizing what I might lose, that kind of gave
I
me
don't do this.
Exactly. So initially everything became a factor of just trying it out, and if it works, it works. So when I went for my first tuition alone, of course, I was very scared. So that was the case, because I was, brought up in a way where I was being accompanied by somebody all the time, right? So from that point, but then when it worked, acha theek hai, jana is safe. I'm just going to somebody's house where I'm gonna meet the kid's mother. She's gonna like ask me nicely the way she asks guests, and then I'm just gonna teach a tiny kid. I mean, not a tiny kid, but like a kid, and that's all. And it worked. So that was the primary thing. And then similar way, when I got my own Activa, I just realized that, I can now take 2 more tuitions, because I'm saving time in just changing,
Walking
public,
so much.
public transport, walking, all of those. So that realization, and then realizing that, okay, I'm getting also. So the results were also immediate. So when I bought my Activa, I could take more tuitions, I could earn more, and same way, right? So that I think helped in a way. And I think a major support was the books. I think I've not realized it enough, but now I do realize when you've asked me this question, I have reflected it well. Yeah.
And these were both fiction, non-fiction, all kinds of books.
Everything was mostly fiction. I used to read non-fictions also. So there is, and this is a very cliche book. There's this book called Jeet Aapki. It's written by this writer called Shiv Kheda. I would probably not read it today because it's too preachy. But at that time, it felt like I can do anything. Like it felt like it gives you that immense will कि तुम कुछ भी कर सकते हो. And उस time पे क्योंकि हम बहुत ही we are like this soft sand, right? Moldable. We can be molded. Whoever convinces us the best, basically. So when you read amazing writers, they make you realize that you can do things, and like things are possible, and they've done things. And in today's era, when like you can go on Instagram and see things, like somebody doing something, like somebody is just lifting 100 kg, and you can lift only 50. You believe that probably someday I can do that.
So books and realizing what you will miss if you don't act.
Yeah.
And even though that act required courage, required you to get uncomfortable, but initially you made it through, and then it got easier by the day.
Yeah, correct. So I mean, trying out helped a lot. And also another thing which I think helped is I've always, all my life, never compared myself with people. And even if I'm doing this, I don't know why, but I just end up feeling that I'm way better. I don't know why. And it could be a complex, of course. But at that time, I've seen people, talking to their parents every day, and telling them wherever they are going, asking for permission. And because I was in this strange phase where I was earning my own money in a way, and I was not talking to my parents a lot, that kind of gave me a little bit of push that, you know what, I've kind of earned a little bit of that I'm not asking my parents if I'm going somewhere. I'm not telling them if I've eaten my food or not. And I used to I started feeling a bit superior in that. And again, it's not what I'm recommending, but I'm just saying it worked in my favor. So I think that most of the girls, even today, most of the girls who I studied with in my undergrad, even today, if they had to go somewhere, they'll ask their parents.
And you did not want that?
I never asked. And then it became a norm. So for a year, I was just not talking a lot to my parents. And then it just became a norm where I just started doing things my own way and no one stopped me. And then after some time, my parents also accepted in a way, because then they saw me taking care of my entire education, taking care of my finances, all of those. So they just kind of gave me that leeway ki, gave my profile, like made my profile look very, very different. At the same time, during my interview, I told them the exact same story and they were like very
exact
happy.
reaction
In
as
a
I
way,
had.
in a way, they were like, we have to give this girl a chance because she has fought her way through, right?
Mhm.
So yeah, I think that was there. Most of the questions were. It started with the education background and gap year and everything. And at that time I was just too naive to fabricate things. So I just went there
Honestly,
and just blabbered. It felt like I'm just talking to people, and they very patiently listened. So at that time it was like that, and also when I had my IIMA interview, I had मतलब मेरा गला बैठा हुआ था, so I could not speak as much. So I just told them this very upfront that this matters the most to me, and please be patient. And at that time, I did not have anything to lose in a moment, in a way, right? Ki if I make it, I make it. Otherwise, I don't. They were very passionate. They were very
very
patient
patient.
with me, and they gave me a glass of water. Take your time, and they listened very patiently. And they asked questions, and they were very happy. And at the moment, they were like a panel of 3 people. And at the last, they said, I asked them, which I don't know if you should do, but I asked them, what do you guys feel? Do you have any feedback? Like a very nice person. And they're like, there's a candy bar, take a candy and get a hint. And I'm like, okay. So I just went out, and that's how it worked. Pretty much the same way I had.
And you got in the
and
first
I got it.
list.
Yeah.
Okay, so you took us through the story where the loan person knocked at your door and
Yeah.
you signed the loan. Now, what happened after that? I'm sure coming from a college where if you talk to boys, they perceive that you're
Yeah.
interested. From there to coming to the best college in the country, what all shocked you? What all surprised you? Did it get you the freedom you were wanting, expecting, academics, everything? What were
Yeah.
the 2 years like?
So, the best experience of my life for sure. There were a few cultural shocks. For example, I had never seen girls and boys sitting together and studying. That was just a very alien concept to me. Even when during my undergrad, agar tum, like, of course, you are in a co-ed college, so you will be studying with boys, but they will be like very separate. Like you will feel that clear difference, and if you're talking to them, everyone will look at you that okay, this girl is talking to a guy, right? Everyone will pay attention to what you're talking. So very, very cultural shock that okay, he is just normal, another human being, and you are just a girl for him, and it doesn't matter. So that was a strong cultural shock. That is for sure one. Second was studying in a room with where guys are also there. So of course, now it sounds so strange to even talk about it, but at that moment I was like, oh my god, you can be in the same room as 3 other guys, and you can just study. It would have been considered a very different experience, or in a very different way, if I were at that college. And of course, it's because primarily because none of those people had that kind of experience, right? So they came with their own preconceived notions and everything. But cultural shock was one. Second was I had access to very, very good mentors. So they were the seniors who I met there were like really good in terms of guiding you, in terms of telling you how your life could be, what things you should focus about. And I have never had guidance in my life. Like so far, I have been just making my own way. So that kind of felt very new and in a way very relaxing. That okay, I can rely on someone for my advice. So that is second. Third is in terms of just studying, right? I was not the most studious, and so I don't know if I should say it here, but one of the mentors who I met, he had said that IIMA में fail होना बहुत मुश्किल है, and you can only fail when you cheat. So because relative grading hota hai, so you can make it up by either participating in class or quizzes or semesters, whatever, right?
Projects.
Terms, projects, group projects, all of those. So you can make up for it. If you fuck up in one quiz, you can like make it
Cover
up
it
for
up.
in the next one, right? So since relative grading is there, so I took that advice very, very seriously. And I played badminton every day. I made great friends at college, and I made sure that I'm like exploring the other interest of mine, be it like just playing, going out, or just exploring campus, hanging out with friends, all of those. At the same time, making sure I do at least the bare minimum for the study part, right? So yeah, primarily it was that. And from the point, I also like these 2 years, I also grew a lot as a person, like from being a person who was driven by his aggression, her aggression, to a person who is thinking very maturely. So I worked on my relations with my parents, because I realized that parents are like, you get your parents only once in your life, and I mean, they are also not perfect. So just accepting that part, and I also realized that those are my only parents. Like, there's no way I can have another set of parents, or I exchange, or whatever, right? So I worked on my relations with them, and now I am at a very, 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 very good space with them. And and of course, when I came to IIMA, and when my parents realized and other people realized that how big of a deal it is, they already had started seeing me as like a special person. So I became part of their financial discussions. Whenever there's a major decision is going to happen, they started asking me all of those. So all of those, kind of took place. And from a that mentor only told me that कुछ भी हो मतलब नौकरी तो मिल ही जाएगी, because you're in IIMA, right? And that's all I wanted. And I was earning like 7K a month. So from that to a person who is like, how much we earn. So
You can give like just a rough
to
range.
start with, I think, I mean, even if you're, and I was a fresher, I had never worked. So my initial salary was around 1.2 lakh in hand after taxes. So from 7,000 to 1.2 lakhs in hand, it's like I just could not comprehend. I was like, oh my God, I'm the richest person on the earth, and what do I do with all of this money? But then there was, of course, education loan. So there's that. But because of that, because I have had that kind of experience, I was able to save a lot. So yeah, that's it.
So you did not let the IIMA academic rigor get to you. You still managed to like do the bare minimum and take the best in a balanced way of what the place could offer you.
Yeah. So I think during the moment I got into IIMA, I have been very, very lucky, I think. Say, for example, my summer internship. So I was a fresher. I did not, in my undergrad college does not even have a placement cell or something. So you are on your own. So I have never experienced how a placement experience is, right? So I was very chill. So during my summer internship also, everyone was sitting, and I'm sitting at the back of the desk and watching a movie. And then somebody called my name and said, like, तुझे interviews देने हैं कि नहीं देने हैं? क्योंकि summer internship में you go through multiple and all of that. So I like, yeah, I've been not called yet and all of that. And then PI Industries, my first company, they called me, and my resume had bunch of sports listed. So all they asked me were, what is pickleball? Because I had played pickleball. They did not know what pickleball is. So I had explained them pickleball. They said, why do you want to work in Delhi? I said, because I want to travel and mountains are close. When I was like, and this is not how you should answer, right? You are in IIMA, you're well groomed and all of that, but I'm just being a fresher, did not prepare well, all of that. I'm just being very casual with the guy. So all of that, and then he asked me a few questions about my experience so far, and some of the questions about my undergrad, and I answered them well. I was well prepared, at least on that. And then I got the internship. In my first interview experience of my summer intern, I got the internship, and I'm like, I just wanted an internship. I did not have a preference on what, right? Mm-hmm. And again, that's never how one should plan. It just worked for me, right? So that's how I got into it. Similarly, during my final placement also, so I'm a very, very honest person, and I do not have the fear what you should speak in an interview, that you should not let the other person feel that you need the job. And that kind of gets to my head, and I've always been very vocal, very, very straightforward. So during my final placements also, I had a PPO from PI Industry. So I was like fearless. I'm like, I have a job already, but I have a bunch of shortlists. So IIMA में उसके बाद तुम 3 ही shortlist में बैठ सकते हो. So I sat through one, and then they also got into this entire story thing. So I told them my entire story. They were very impressed, and they gave me an offer. Second was, there's another company called Gramophone. They are an Agri startup. So they also gave me an offer, because they were planning to pan out more of their services in Madhya Pradesh. And I am from Madhya Pradesh and a daughter of a farmer. So I was like the perfect fit for them. And this third one was Rabobank, where the guy was just discussing things with me. And then his first question was, okay, so tell me, why is Rabobank the perfect job for you? I'm like, it's not. And I'm just here because I'm supposed to be. Shortlist. Exactly. And he was shocked, because otherwise the person, any other interviewer would be telling him ki, why all of that. And he was like, dude, I really like the straightforwardness. Tell me more about you. And then we both kept my CV side and we are discussing how I'm passionate about travel, sports. And he started telling me he's also passionate about mountaineering and all of that. So during the entire 45 minutes of interview, we were just discussing travel experiences, how we want to do things in life and all of that. And we connected really well. And he's like, you know what, you're so straightforward and we work with European clients and they would love this and I would love to have you on board. So I had the third offer from there. So all of this, but then
You
again,
have 4 offers in hand.
yeah. So all of this, but then at the same time, I wanted to be part of a company which is established because I always had this education loan thing. And PI was also paying the highest in terms of
Among the
compared
four.
to the rest of the other 3. So I accepted PI. I rejected all these things. I did not want to go for a startup, which I feel now is a mistake in a way, but I don't regret it because it gave me a lot of mental peace that I am being part of an organization which is very stable and I will have that job for a longer period of time and I can make sure that I can continue to pay my education loan because I did not have a cushion. I am the cushion and I was cushion for my family. So I really want to take care of that part.
Wow. So I am very interested to know the journey from being the girl who is like, I don't care about this job, to now getting at a place where you interview people for very crucial, very important roles. And I'm sure the entire journey from there to then moving on to your first startup, then to a quick commerce company, then to a fintech company switches. They would have required a lot of effort, conscious effort, learning how to say the right things in the interviews. What has the transformation been like for Nikki and even the professional journey?
Okay. So first job was it's a very stable company into chemical sector. So like average age of the company was say 35, 40 and I was the youngest. So one thing, no one was taking me seriously. I was a management trainee and when you are a management trainee, you become a part of like a lot of teams and learn those and then figure out what is working for you. 10 to 6, punch in, punch out. We used to take like huge lunch breaks, all of that. But then there was not a lot of learning. So my management trainee stint was supposed to last for a year, but then थोड़े हाथ पैर मारे मैंने and I wanted to get a role quickly. So I also did an internship with the same company. So the person I interned under was leaving the company. So I was offered his role because I had the maximum context at that time for one of their flagship products. So I took that role within 7 months of my management training stint, and that role required a lot of traveling. And I used to love traveling. So मैं क्या करती थी कि मैं बहुत travel करती थी and मैं काम के लिए ट्रैवल करती थी एंड आई यूज्ड टू मेक ट्रिप आउट ऑफ इट. सो अगर मैं कहीं कोलकाता जा रही हूँ तो मैं काम करूंगी एंड देन वीकेंड्स पे एक दिन क्लब करके आई विल जस्ट मेक इट माय ओन ट्रिप एंड दैट वाज वर्किंग really well. But then COVID hit. So because the entire role was so basically what the company does, it sells pesticide insecticides to farmers, right? So because COVID की वजह से सब कुछ बंद हो गया था तो पूरा काम ही रुक गया, right? And I could not travel. We could not just work, right? So all of that was happening and then I realized कि अगर जब काम resume भी हुआ तो I realized that I don't want to travel as much for work as I was doing. I was traveling like 15 to 20 days a month and I was very happy. I was the happiest that okay, I have this role. And then उस time पे बहुत सारे credit card वाले point वाला scene भी चलता था. I used to accumulate those and used to convert it in my travels. So all of that was happening. फिर जब COVID second wave हुई, we all of us were called to work back from office and I realized that probably it's just not working out for me because I don't want to travel as much. My family was also in a way thoda scared कि इतना travel कर रहे हो, all of that. So then I started looking out and I started thinking अब किस तरफ जाना है, right? So e-commerce was something I'd always been interested and I applied for a bunch of roles in Flipkart and Amazon primarily, got a few shortlist from both and then there was an assignment involved for Flipkart. I did that and I got the role, right? But the way I was working in my first company was very, very different and I was a fresher. I had never worked in a professional setup. So मतलब बहुत basic चीजें ही मुझे नहीं आती थी. So when I got into Flipkart and extremely fast paced, मतलब first meeting में ही मुझे the first day of mine when I was at Flipkart, there was no orientation or something. I was just entered into a meeting and then were asked कि इसके inputs दो किसी चीज के, right? And I was supposed to be taking care of that and I had no fucking clue. So then I realized that it is just very, very fast. So what I did at that time was shamelessly just reached out to people and ask for help, so that they gave me a lot of context on how things happen here, what all is working. And I also never worked in that sector, right? It was entirely new, so a lot of learning had to be done. So I did all of that, and because I just reached out to people and asked for help, that I just don't know, please help me. And then people were really, really helpful, and that helped. So Flipkart was very good, very, very fast paced. So I learned a lot. I learned how to get things done, like general. I think मेरा जो first management trainee वाला या PI वाला experience, I would not even consider it. It just paid me and I did the bare minimum, and उनको बहुत slow काम चाहिए होता था. तो इन जनरल फ्लिपकार्ट में जो काम, जो प्लानिंग 1 घंटे में होती थी, वो हम पीआई इंडस्ट्री में 2 दिन में करते थे. शाम को पकौड़े मंगा के सब आराम से मीटिंग रूम सेट करते थे, एंड वैसे करके, राइट. सो इट वाज वेरी, वेरी डिफरेंट, बट लर्निंग वाइज वेरी गुड फॉर मी. Then Flipkart started. I mean, Flipkart is still having problems, but at that time there were a lot of problems. They were like, क्योंकि बहुत जगह layoffs चल रहे थे, they were slow down. So what was happening was all the appraisals were like paused, and there was like PIPs, all of those were happening. And then I realized that if you're working so much, and the most hectic company I've ever worked is like, I was taking care of growth in merchandising, so I was working till 12 in the night, and then whenever the sale goes live, it goes live at 12, so you have to be awake till then, make sure everything is working fine, all of that. So it was very, very challenging in terms of work, in terms of the time I was giving, but I was not happy money wise. So I'm like, okay, I'm out of here. So I started then applying, and then I wanted कि कौन सा सेक्टर जाना चाहिए. So e-commerce हो गया था, तो I wanted कि अच्छा resume में एक और add करना है. So I started looking in fintech, and I got through Simple. So there, but at that time when I was moving to Simple, I very well knew that the entire switch I'm doing is for money, because I realized after working at Flipkart that मैं कितना भी काम कर लूँ, मैं भले काम कर लूँगी, मैं शायद उस पे complain नहीं करूँगी, but I will feel bad if I'm not happy money wise. So I have to sort that part, right? That was one. And also in Flipkart, I had worked at one side of the job, the sell side, and I wanted to take care of the buy side here. So I went into account management. Also, I during Flipkart, I also realized probably I hate stakeholder management. The more stakeholders are there, the delayed your entire planning becomes, right? Because so many people and you can't predict how each stakeholder works. So I just didn't want that in my head कि ये मेरी weakness है. तो I like एक बार काम करके देखते हैं. I just want to sort that one. So I got into a role which required extreme stakeholder management. So account management needs you to work with multiple stakeholders from multiple teams, multiple clients. And then I went there and I got 2 promotion within like 8 months of joining. And I realized कि मतलब मुझे पसंद नहीं है stakeholder management करना, लेकिन अगर करना पड़े तो मैं अच्छे से कर सकती हूँ, right? So that's how it is. And that gave me a lot of confidence, because I mean, promotion and more money is of course external validation, but it really works when you're looking for that. So it really gave me that confidence कि भाई मैं कुछ तो मचा रही हूँ, क्योंकि तभी लोग पैसे दे रहे हैं, तभी लोग promote कर रहे हैं, right? And Simple also went through 3 rounds of layoffs. So I had joined Simple, and उसके एक महीने बाद ही उन्होंने layoffs किए थे. And क्योंकि मैंने मनी वाला पार्ट सॉर्ट कर लिया, तो मुझे इतना टेंशन नहीं हुआ कि ठीक है, मतलब दूसरी नौकरी ढूंढ लूंगी ऐसे. तो लेकिन they did not lay me off. That worked. But then Simple immediately pivoted from growth to profitability. So growth में तुम एकदम भसड़ में बहुत हसल वाला काम करते हो. You are constantly running out. And I also realized after working at Flipkart and Simple that probably that's where I thrive. Could be one of my toxic traits. And profitability वाला जो slow phase है, that just does not work for me, because everything is slow. You wait for people to respond in a way when अभी तक तुम एकदम immediately सब कुछ काम कर रहे थे, right? So then I realized कि time to move. That's also there. And Simple was also having financial problems. So I never wanted कि मैं पूरे time यही सोचती रहूँ कि कभी third, हाँ, all of that. So the next, best sector to be in at this moment is quick commerce, and Zepto was hiring crazily. So I applied for Zepto, and I got through. Very, very good profile. I mean, of course, the Simple wala experience made it very interesting. So I applied, I got through, and I joined Zepto, and it has been working really well for me. So again, I mean, from a money point of view, it really gave me whatever money I wanted. From role point of view, it gave me a role where I wanted to work with a lot of stakeholders. So now I'm working with a lot of stakeholders. And in terms of the team and everything is like really, really good. And also the kind of things they're building, it's a very interesting space to be in. And another way of, or probably another bit of turning your ESOPs to reality. So that's what I'm betting on at this moment.
Wow. What a journey it has been. And again, you've consciously made decisions. You've consciously chosen your path. Ki, no, I want to be in quick commerce right now. I want to be in e-commerce right now. I want to work in fintech right now. And you've made that happen. So did these switches require a lot of upskilling, or just the previous experience and convincing the interviewer that if I was able to do this right, I will figure my way out through this also?
So I think a few things which worked in my favor. One is, of course, the college. So I already had a lot of people who were working. So Simple ke jo CEO hai, he's from IIMA. He's a senior of ours. Then the person who was hiring, the hiring manager, he was also from IIMA. Not that they favored, but I could have just reached out to them on LinkedIn and it would not feel weird, right? So that is, I think, something really worked. And I think it's not just being from the same college, but because you have a tag, it really helps. It gives you the confidence, and the person who you are reaching out to also does not feel bad or weird about it. So that's also the case. That is one. Second, I think, which works really well, which not a lot of people realize, is making your resume exactly like the JD needs. So even if you have done bunch of similar stuff with which the job requirement says, if you have not customized it accordingly, if you have made just one CV and you're applying everywhere, it might not work. It may work, but it may take some time. What I've done, I've made like 5 versions of my CV, and I've made it one for growth role, one for other role, and like that. So, and then because whenever you work on bunch of stuff, right? And you can highlight those parts. So if you want to get into growth role, you highlight the growth stuff you have done. If you want to get into account management role, you highlight that part, right? So that's what I think has really helped. So I used to, whenever I was applying, and when I was applying for Simple, I had offers from I think 6 other companies, and I joined Simple because एक तो fintech में जाना था और Simple was paying the highest, right? So that is another reason. Another company I wanted to get into was something which is into content. So I had an offer from Netflix and I had an offer from Hotstar, but again, Simple was paying the highest, so I just went there, and that worked in my favor. So I think customizing your resume really helps, and referral really helps. Yes.
So one thing that I noticed, Nikki, is you touch upon money. Like, money has dictated your life in so many ways, and I am very curious to know how your relationship with money has evolved from someone who earned a few thousand rupees as a student on their own to someone who's now, I'm sure you're very close to your FIRE journey. So I want you to take us through your relationship with money. Also touch upon the fact that you mentioned when we were talking backstage is you started with saving 90% of your salary. So how has that relationship evolved, and how did that come? What are the ways you've learned to manage your personal finances well?
Okay. So, I mean, it started with not having it at all. So, I mean, I was entirely dependent on my parents for any kind of money, right? And of course, my parents didn't have a lot, or even had money, right? So it started from me asking my parents for everything to realizing that this just is not gonna work out, right? So from that, I think when I started teaching, when I started the tuition part, I started earning my own money, right? And at that time, I was an extreme saver, because I realized कि बहुत ज़्यादा dependence है पैसे पे, so it should be there whenever I need it, right? And from that part, I always used to optimize for cost. So that has been the the framework कि okay, मैं कौन सी cost कम कर सकती हूँ. तो say for example, I used to eat at hostels, right? तो हॉस्टल में लंच एंड डिनर ही मिलता था, ब्रेकफास्ट नहीं मिलता था, तो मैं डिनर का थोड़ा खाना बचा के ब्रेकफास्ट में खाती थी, सो दैट आई डोंट हैव टू स्पेंड मनी ऑन माय ब्रेकफास्ट, राइट? दैट इज वन. आई यूज्ड टू वॉक सो दैट मुझे लोकल ट्रांसपोर्ट के 10 रुपए ना खर्च करना पड़े. इट साउंड्स सो small at this moment, but then at that time it used to mean so much to me कि मैंने आज 10 रुपए बचाए हैं by just walking. So I used to pay in time, right? So everything used to be कि मैं वो cost मैं कैसे incur कर लूँ ताकि absolute पैसा बच जाए. It started from that, and then after MBA, of course, MBA gives you a lot of exposure and a lot of learning about how you view money, right? And then also you're earning a lot more. So when I started my first job, I was in Gurgaon, and my office was very close. So I took a shared place where I was paying around 7K a month for just staying. So 15K ka room tha, एक रूम में हम 2 लोग रहते थे, एंड अगेन नॉट द बेस्ट वे पॉसिबल, बट मुझे पैसे बचाने थे. सो दैट एंड मतलब बाहर जाना एंड वो सब एकदम बंद. लाइक इट्स लाइक आई हैव लॉस्ट सो मेनी फ्रेंड्स बिकॉज आई हैव स्टॉप्ड हैंगिंग आउट, बिकॉज यू गो आउट एंड 1500 इज गॉन, एंड आई वाज जस्ट नॉट ओके विद दैट, क्योंकि बहुत मुझे स्ट्रेस था कि मुझे अपना एजुकेशन लोन पे करना है. सो दैट cooking my own food, like very very basic, right? Staying very close to the office. So usse even I used to like spend 21k a month, and that in that way I used to save like 90% of my salary, and then I used to the entire 90% of my salary in stock market. And when I grew that money enough, जब मुझे लगा कि अब probably टाइम आ गया है लोन देने का, and I was not seeing a lot of upside जब कोविड वाला सीन हुआ था, तो I was not seeing a lot of upside in stock market. That's when I realized कि अभी लोन पे कर देते हैं. And that's how it worked. But with time, as I started making more, I realized कि time is more important. So then I started thinking about money more from saving to investing or making it more. So when I say investing, well, I will probably pay 300 to save 15 minutes of mine. So say earlier, okay, I can walk 15 minutes and save 300, but now it's like I'm gonna save my time. So it has more become like valuing my time more than valuing the money, and then making that money useful for me in a way. So then earlier probably I would never think about spending 30k on gym membership. I would not even think twice today about that. Similarly, say on any quality stuff, if I really want to get it, I would get it because say it is adding something to my life. And then earlier probably I'll not even think about it that way. And then this third part where I have now, and I'm still like in the learning phase for it, is like I'm like spending on myself, because I've been brought up in a way जहाँ पे हम मतलब दिवाली पे एक बार कपड़े खरीदते थे साल में, and that's just was it कि तुमको साल में एक बार कपड़े मिल रहे हैं. तो उस फेज से now realizing कि you can literally buy whatever you need. I've not accepted it fully yet. So that realization that it's okay to buy. Like I have been a minimalist all my life, and I was just having this discussion with my best friend. Is like probably हम minimalist नहीं है, probably हम गरीब रहे हैं पूरी जिंदगी तो हमको लगता है minimalist है, और जब हमारे पास पैसे आ जाएंगे, अनलिमिटेड आ जाएगा, तो शायद हम नहीं रहेंगे. And then I kind of accepted that कि हाँ शायद ऐसा ही है कि I am minimalist क्योंकि मेरी situation ने मुझे वैसा कर दिया था. Condition myself कि I don't need more, but what if I want more? Will I be able to do that? So I think that realization coming in terms with that part, that it's completely okay to spend, and not from an investment point of view, or even कि I will use it later from a point of view. अगर तुमको चाहिए तो तुम जाके ले लो, क्योंकि तुम ले सकते हो. Accepting that part is what I'm like working on right now. So yeah, that's how it has been.
Everything that you said is so relatable for me, for my own personal journey, coming from a place where like we'll only meet our needs. उसके ऊपर जो भी है वो फिजूल खर्ची है. We like if you can ignore it, हटा दो. नहीं खरीद, मतलब अगर उसके बिना काम हो जाएगा तो चला लो. I come from a exactly same upbringing, and even I have a lot of struggle spending, even though I can, but I have not yet found the courage to. Another thing like I maybe want to go a little bit deep into is, you mentioned you had the knowledge कि शुरू में सिर्फ डायरेक्ट लोन नहीं चुकाना है. You started investing first, and then when the money started compounding and it maybe multiplied, that's when you started paying off your loan. How did you have this knowledge, and did you learn investing on your own? And how have you educated yourself?
Okay, so I think starting में I had no damn clue. मतलब मुझे ये भी नहीं पता था कि स्टॉक मार्केट कैसे काम करता है. But there are a bunch of really good stuff out there. So one is Varsity by Zerodha, which I started, reading a little bit about. It's basically an app. उसमें modules होते हैं. तुम पढ़ते जाओ and solve करते जाओ. It will upgrade you to whatever level how you are doing, right? So that really teaches कि कोई अगर से 8th class का बच्चा है, उसको अगर stock market के बारे में सीखना है, तो Varsity पढ़ो. तो उससे मैंने शुरू किया. That is one. And also I was surrounded with such people around me who were kind of very, very active, investors or traders, and who were extremely good at it. So I had some guidance from there, and that kind of helped me in terms of realizing that बैंक में पैसा रखने से बहुत अच्छा है कि तुम मतलब मार्केट में डाल के रख लो कहीं पे, even म्यूचुअल फंड if you are not very risk averse, right? So that helped. And anyway, क्योंकि जैसे कोई भी corporate में काम करने जाता है तो उसको टैक्स बचाने के लिए म्यूचुअल फंड वाला ELSS तो करना ही है, राइट? तो वो तो करना ही था, तो दैट वाज बेसिक. एंड अनदर थिंग अबाउट मी इज कि इफ even if somebody is an expert and he's telling me what to do, I'll probably not be able to do that. I will do my own research. So मतलब मुझे पता होना चाहिए कि मेरे पैसा कहाँ जा रहा है. अगर तुम बहुत अच्छे हो, even if my dad who's like, if he's like really good at it and he has been managing money from multiple people and of multiple people and then he's telling me कि तू यहाँ लगा दे, मैं वो एक्सेप्ट नहीं कर सकती. इट्स जस्ट हाउ आई एम. सो आई विल स्टिल गो एंड डू माई ओन रिसर्च. मैं अपने थोड़ा बहुत पढ़ लूंगी, रिसर्च कर लूंगी कि हाउ इट हैज बिन डूइंग, what are some of the fundamentals and all of that, and then I'll put my money. So that habit kind of got me into it and then I started loving it because पैसा बढ़ रहा है तो मजा तो आता ही है. So I think that helped. So initially I started with mutual funds and then I got into stocks and that earned well. Yeah.
Wow. So we've covered your professional journey very extensively, your personal story, and one side that still remains to be touched is your love for travel, is your love for new experiences, is your the how you chase freedom. Yeah. So how I got introduced to you is because you were at Mantra Surf School and my brother was volunteering there. So I know you surf a lot, you skate, you travel. And I'm sure this comes from your craving for freedom that you did not have as a child. But that's so amazing. So please tell us how you manage your full-time job with travel, with chasing what you want. And maybe if you can even touch your newfound passion for fitness.
Yeah, sure. So I think everything stemmed from the fact whatever was not available to me. So I was not allowed to go out alone. So I just wanted to do that. And I don't know if you know, but I love I love going on solo trips only. I would not travel. You will not see me travel with people. And I think this is an extension of because I was not allowed to do that, right? And I realized this very late in life कि सोलो ट्रैवल ही क्यों पसंद है, अकेले ही जाना क्यों पसंद है, क्योंकि पहले वो करना अलाउड नहीं था, राइट? सो मोस्ट ऑफ द थिंग्स विच आई एम पैशनेट अबाउट I was not allowed or women are not allowed to do, right? Or not like seen as, right? Say for example, surf, right? You will not see a lot of women surfing. You will not, and I'm not saying I'm a pro surfer or something, but I'm saying ki I picked it up and I gave it like good 3-4 months. And now I can say that, okay, I can take my board and probably just
go out alone and
catch a wave probably, right? And in India, you will not see a lot of women who are into surfing or women who can even imagine that they could go and surf. And I would really encourage people to, or women to go and try that sport because it's very freeing. So that's there. And similarly, skate, right? Everyone was in a way has said that you're a woman, you're a girl, you're supposed to look fine, you're supposed to not have scratches wounds, and all of this, right? So that's why I wanted to pick it up. And it was kind of a challenge in my own head कि मतलब मुझे करना है क्योंकि तुम करने नहीं दे रहे हो. It was primarily that. I mean, I recently colored my hair primarily because I was not even allowed to cut my hair till my 12th standard. Like हम स्कूल में बाल कटवा नहीं सकते थे. It's such a, and now that I think about it, I'm like, how did I even put up with that? हम स्कूल में बाल नहीं कटवा सकते थे. You cannot keep your hair open. You'll have to तेल लगा के चोटी बना के रखनी है. And that's how I lived for 7 years of my life. So that's just how. So I think everything is an extension of what I was not allowed to do, and I'm like, I'm just gonna do that exactly. So that's there. And when I was in MBA, when I was doing my MBA, so IIMA में मतलब academic बहुत strong होता है. So everyone's like constantly doing something. तो बीच में तुमको 2-3 दिन ही मिलते हैं. Since I did not have great relationship with my parents, जब भी 2-3 दिन मिल रहे हैं, मैं अपने पेरेंट्स के यहाँ नहीं जाना चाहती थी, मैं कहीं घूमने चली जाती थी. तो I realized कि it's very free. That's when it all started. And when I had my first breakup, I realized, and I was like very into it. So I realized कि मतलब अब तो क्या ही है लाइफ में, मतलब it's the end of my life, अब मेरे साथ क्या ही बुरा हो जाएगा, right? So I was in Delhi, I took a local bus to Himachal और 5,000 कुछ थे मेरे पास, and then I stayed in a village, took lift from like truck drivers and all of those, and like because क्योंकि डर नहीं था, it's not like I wanted to do that, बस पैसे नहीं थे और डर नहीं था कि अब क्या ही हो जाएगा. It's such a naive way of thinking. I'm like, I just sometimes feel कि मैं अभी तक सही सलामत हूँ. It's just luck, right? Because I've done random shit. तो I stayed in a few villages and then I realized कि मतलब लोगों की प्रॉब्लम कितनी अलग हैं and I'm just having a heartbreak and thinking कि मेरी दुनिया end हो जाएगी. So that changed perspective for me, and I also realized कि the more you meet people, the more you travel, बहुत ज़्यादा exposure मिलता है, and it really puts things into perspective. So that helped. So that's how I picked up, and then I started content creation because of that कि मुझे salary के पैसे इस पे नहीं लगाने, मुझे cost कम करनी है. So whenever I travel, if I'm doing some collab with somebody, I would have otherwise have to pay for that money, right? So I'm taking care of that cost. So I think that has worked out. So that's how the entire thing has started.
Wow. And I love your page. That's how
Thank you.
like I got introduced to you after my brother
Yeah.
explained everything. And I can't tell you how inspired I felt. Everything that you said, surfing, skating, solo travel. Not that I've ever been stopped to do any of that, but yet it feels liberating to watch someone go do what they want to do.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Thank you so much.
So we've covered your childhood, education, IIMA, and the numerous switches, travel, breaking and challenging rules everywhere that you've gone. And to just summarize what I've taken away from our conversation so far is books inspiring you to go and do something, go and maybe rebel when it was required, taking the courage to try out new things. What if they work? What if they don't? Educating yourself when you did not have mentors, and then even finding mentors later in your life, and transforming yourself, changing and evolving. So this is what I have taken from your journey so far, but I'm sure that there's so much more, and everyone listening to this will have their own takeaways. Maybe courage, maybe I don't know, but yeah, everyone will have their own takeaways. But if you were to summarize what kind of decisions have worked for you, or if there's any message that you want to give to the listeners, maybe it can be specifically to girls, or to anyone listening to you who maybe is struggling to find the courage to raise their voice, or maybe in general. So what would that be?
Sure. So I think a few things which worked in my favor. One was just thinking out loud and not comparing. I think that has really worked. If I would have compared myself at that time, I would have probably compared ki she's looking so pretty. Why do I not look like that? I've never done it. It's like it has just never gotten to me. So probably, and I know it's very difficult to not compare, but like think one thing I would really want people to objectively look at is ki stop comparing, and probably just look at your journey as soul and not the other one's, a part of other one's journey. So that's something which has worked really well for me. Second, which has really worked well for me, is just taking care of money from the equation. Like, you have to make money. There is no way you cannot make money. Even if, say, somebody, and it's completely okay if somebody just want to, do nothing, just want to get married and just do like house making stuff, right? If somebody wants to do that, it's completely okay. But even then, you will be depending on the other person for your needs. So I mean, you have to make money, you have to sort your finances, and you should not limit yourself thinking ki mujhe to bas itna hi chahiye. So I think what I really now have started in last few years is ki ठीक है मुझे इतना ही चाहिए, बट मैं ज्यादा कमाऊंगी and then I'll use only जितना मुझे चाहिए. So I think realizing that कि don't stop कि मुझे 2 लाख में मेरा काम हो रहा था मैं उतना ही कमाऊंगी. Like go for your full potential, don't tap that, क्योंकि कैसे लाइन होती है, अगर उस टाइम पे you don't tap into that तो फिर वो पास हो जाएगा and then you'll not be able to come back to that. So I think sorting money, like really taking money out of your life's equation really helps. And I have still not met or found a use case जो money solve नहीं कर सकती. Like you give anything, you can literally solve everything from money. And I'm talking from an individual point of view. I'm not saying कि मतलब
सबके लिए काम करेगा,
कोई भी हाँ like world की problem solve probably नहीं करेगी, but 99.9% everything can be solved by money. So just really go after money and like make money. उसके बाद philosopher बनना है, traveler बनना है, कुछ नहीं करना है, कुछ करना है, passion के लिए कुछ करना है, जो करना है करो, बस money part solve कर लो. I think that's something I really want people to work on, and specifically women, because it's like really important for their freedom and everything. So yeah, that's all.
One thing that maybe I missed and I just want to cover is, from what I gather from what you've told me till now, is that even you are on your fire journey.
Yeah.
So if there's anything you can tell the audience about your fire journey, how is that been so far, and do you have a number in mind, how close you are to that number, do you have a age in mind that okay, I want to stop working after that, or like you said, you'll never stop,
Yeah.
but you'll just have ki theek hai mere ko itna hi chahiye, but there's no cap on how much I'm earning.
Yeah. So, initially, I think 2 years into the job, I wanted to reach a number, say, okay, I want $1 million in my account, and probably that number I'm very, very comfortable with कि अच्छा अब मुझे कुछ काम करने की जरूरत नहीं है. लेकिन the problem is you evolve as a person all the time, right? So whatever number you have decided 2 years back as your fire number, that number will also evolve. So say जब मैंने decide किया था तब I was just considering 50,000 a month as my
your
expense. But today I don't want any cap on that, right? So then my number will also evolve. And at the same time, say whatever your expenses are at that moment will be a sum of whatever you want in your life, right? But then you would want different things in life. Say you don't want kids. I didn't want kids, say for example, 2 years back. What if I would want 10 years back? Then my number will not make sense, right? So I think now the point is I want to make shitloads of money. Like that's the goal. And the fire journey, when we were just talking about it, that when people say that I will reach fire and then I'll do what? Like not a lot of people think about it, that what will you do when you exit,
you
right?
reach that number.
So I think I'm still in that reflection phase, that I want to really reflect on that, what I will do when I get out of it. Maybe I'll travel, maybe I'll build something of my own, maybe I'll build businesses, maybe I'll work on a very interesting startup, very risky startup, probably, all of that. So that's still like an ongoing phase. But I think when you reach fire, the idea is to reduce or probably remove the dependence on money from a basic point of view. So your food is taken care of, your
housing,
all of your things kind of is taken care of, and then rest of the things kind of fall in place. So yeah, I don't think I am the current the current way I look at fire, I don't think I'm anywhere closer. So that's there, but still like it's in reflection phase. So I hope I reach somewhere soon.
Thank you so much for your time, Nikki. Thank you so much for being so candid, so honest. Yeah, I know I was crying in the middle of it, and I'm sure a lot of the audience would be too. And I have so much to take from your journey. I have so much to learn from your journey, and I really hope we stay in touch and we have you back again. So thank you for your time.
Thank you for having me. I had the best time.